All right, man, you got it. Don't say anything dumb. Don't be silly. Just act normal. Just do normal things. All right, I know this episode really is gonna be rad. Radiator. All right, up to this point, I have been working on this thing. I mentioned in the last overview that I really want to make sure that Crusty is up to snuff. I want to get the entire engine compartment finished, and a big part of that is the cooling system. So I need to get the radiator installed, the radiator hoses, the transmission cooler lines. All of those different pieces need to get installed so that then I can move on to wiring, get the grill and the hood installed and get that all buttoned up, and then I can move on to the back of the Jeep. All right, without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so before I get too carried away on installing all the cooling system for this Jeep, you can see when I was installing the motor, I messed up and chipped just a little bit off of this pulley. So it's time to get that pulley removed. Enjoy. From what I've seen, the way this system works, you get this piece and you just kind of loosen it down, that bolt with this nut till it's flat like that. Then I've got two collars here with a big and a small side. So I'm going to drop this in just like so. And then this piece is going to slide right around that pulley like so. And then this sleeve holds all that in place. And then I'm going to tighten this bolt down. All right, so now we're cooking with grease. So you can see that inner piece. Here we go. So you can see that inner piece attached with that sleeve, ready to go. And so what we'll do, the universal 21 millimeter is in place. And then let's get this thing tightened in and see if we can get this pulley off. Oh, golly. They do not want these pulleys to come off. I will tell you guys that. All right, I found plan B. Plan A was taking too much effort, so here we go. Back to the original viewing angle for your pleasure. Let's see what we can do here. Oh, shoot. Okay. All right, so what we have now is that it used to have this lip here all the way around, and it is now sheared off. So if you guys have any ideas on how I can resolve this issue and get this pulley swapped, please let me know. If not, looking like I might just go ahead and order a complete new power steering pump. So, all right, well, I was hoping to get that done tonight and get started on the radiator. We might be putting that on hold. Okay, why am I starting with okay? Whatever, here we go. This is everything that I should hopefully need to get the radiator installed and ready to go. Oh, actually, hold on. Over here, I've got more. I bet this camera work is amazing. When you don't have cameraman Caleb handy, this is what you do. You make it work. Okay, there we go. All right, so we got some, well, here, let's make it look nice-ish. Whatever. Cluttered workbench, it's good. Starting to at the right, I've got a auxiliary transmission cooler with some big AN lines. I'm gonna get those swapped out. They'll fit to an AN6, which is what I'm gonna run to the stock hard lines off the transmission. I've got my radiator overflow. Then we have the radiator itself with the dual electric fans. I'll leave a link to it. And really, it was just an Amazon special that said it fits a Jeepster, and so I went for it. Then I went ahead and I cut out, I had some 4x2 rectangular tube, and I actually just cut it in half, so it's like 1 inch this way by 4 inches this way. That'll adapt from the radiator to this piece here. We'll show that more in detail as I go to install it. And then I just bought some universal radiator hose. It's hard metal, that'll be flexible. I'll be able to make it fit exactly how I want it to. And so overall, this should be everything I need to get all of the cooling system installed into this Jeepster. Let's go. For the radiator overflow, it's actually going to fit really nicely here on the passenger side, so you can see. I'm going to go ahead and get this put here, get it marked, get holes drilled, and get this mounted. Here's the final version of the radiator with the cooling fans and then the overflow tank. And as you can see, the brackets just bolt on here to the side with a couple little bolts like this. So these 3 bolts holes here will align with the cross member on the grill of the Commando. And so let's go get this installed. All right, so the radiator, this will just fit right here. I feel like this stuff's always a little bit easier with 2 people, but you know, you make do. Ugh. Now that I've got this just put in, I'll go ahead and tighten all these bolts up off camera. Putting this in, I had nothing to reference on how high it should be, where exactly it should sit. I asked a few people online. I kind of looked at a few different photos. Again, this said on Amazon, it's for a Jeepster Commando, so I assume maybe sorta it should fit. And really, this is where we ended up. This sits right above this support. That puts this at right at about 4 inches. I did the other day check and make sure all this clears, and so overall that should work just fine. I have maybe a ½ an inch further to go down. However, when I was considering that, you can see this weld is right here, and you can also kind of see maybe that the radiator sits over this support just a smidge. So what I was really worried about with that is that if I lowered this anymore, those welds might rub on that cross support, eventually just create an issue with a hole. This makes it to where the radiator's not rubbing on anything, and it does clear the hood. So overall, we should be good to go. Looking further in here, you can see the brackets just sit down in there nice and neat. I've got my overflow can here on this side. This is for the cruise control. It's a vacuum canister off the Cherokee, so that'll stay. I had the horn over here, my air cleaner, cruise control module. So this side was really already taken up with a lot of different pieces, and so that's why the overflow's on the other side. All right, let me get this tightened up, and then we'll move on to the next steps. Okay, so in typical fashion, I don't remember exactly what I have filmed up to this point in regards to getting this radiator installed, but as you can see, I have done some work already, and so let's talk a little bit about where we're at and what I need to get done for the remainder of this video. What I do have, we'll throw in as B-roll as I'm talking about it. What I don't have, I apologize, and hopefully it still looks good. So what I have here, this is I don't remember, I'll have to look at the number of rows, but it's just a radiator, Amazon special. It was listed as fitting a Jeep CJ or Jeep Commando. This is a 72 Jeep Commando. So in theory, this should work. One of the big question marks that I had was basically how tall can this radiator cap sit up and still clear the hood, because it really feels really tall up here, but I didn't have any of the original bracketry, any original radiator, anything to really reference to know how tall this could be. I did ask a few people and I got pretty close to where that's gonna be. One of the issues that I was running into or concerned about is that the top of this radiator, if I drop it any lower, it's gonna run into this cross member support. I didn't want that to happen. So this is really kind of the best place, as low as I could get it. The other thing is on the bottom side, I'd start running into steering components, hoses, other things that are on the bottom of it. So really this was the best I could do with this radiator, and it's already been purchased. I've had it for way too long, and I just really hoped that it was gonna fit in place. And so I did already go ahead and throw the hood on and just roughly put it in place, and there's a relief in the hood, and this actually does clear. So we're in good shape. Time out. I'm gonna go find a tape measure. And I'm back. Okay, so with that, let's see here. We are sitting right at 4 inches above the top of this cross member support, or the radiator support, to the top of this cap. So 4 inches, it seems to clear. We should be good. I'll let you guys know if anything changes. Then in addition to that, I ran the overflow hose here, attached it to the electrical fans. I have a canister here for that. I'll show you how all that's mounted as well and go into more details with the upper radiator hose. This one's already installed. I'll show you what I'm using for those, how to get those installed, and we'll get the bottom one installed. And without further ado, let's transition. For the radiator hoses, I actually went with one of these universal kits. It's like a metal, aluminum, something ribbed hose, so it's hard, but it's also malleable and flexible, so you can see as you bend it into a shape, it's gonna hold that shape. So, you know, bending it up, making little S-turns, making tight curves, it holds whatever shape I want. And the reason I went with this is, one, it was cheap, so this is a budget build still. I'm trying to keep everything into budget, and I think I might have spent 40 bucks on all of the couplers, all the hose, everything I needed for top and bottom. When I was looking for rubber molded hoses, those were, some of them were $30 a piece, or they were more expensive than that, and I wasn't really sure what was gonna fit. The top was really easy, it's a straight line. The bottom, with the placement of the radiator and the outlet on the motor side, and then the outlet on the radiator itself, I wasn't really sure. The bends, I tried to make the stock Cherokee hoses work, they did not want to fit. I might have been able to source a Jeep CJ hose, or even an actual hose for a Jeepster Commando that would have fit, but I wasn't really sure. I didn't want to waste a bunch of time doing that. This should be a simple part of the build, and so I went ahead and went with these, just this universal piece. I'll show you how to get these cut up, how to get them shaped up. It's really straightforward. And then you basically just use these couplers. They have a rubber insert on the inside here that will just slide over the actual outlet on the radiator and the outlet on the motor, and then they just get clamped down with these hose clamps here. Hopefully you guys can see that, and then all of that will just hold that into place. And since this tube here is rigid as well, the hose will actually clamp onto this and hold everything in place. The fluid will roll through it. It shouldn't be a big problem. This is the same type of hose that I use on the yellow Jeepster. I haven't had any issues with it yet, and so I'm hopeful that it will have the same success on this Jeep here. So I did go ahead and figure out how long of length I need for the lower hose. To do that, I just took this wire here. You guys can see it's really simple. Just gonna take that so that I know how long I need to cut this black hose. Let's go ahead and get that cut. Well, there you have it, folks. Cut to length. Let's get it bent and put onto the radiator.
Okay. So that goes like so. Oh, man. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see me, what you can see, but it looks like I'll get that twisted in. Let's get it secured. Okay, so in typical fashion, I didn't do enough research in advance and we ran into a bit of a hiccup. I think I have a solution, but I'll show you guys in case, you know, for whatever reason you run into this. But I looked, so all of the outputs on the radiator are 1.5 inches. The top output, you might be able to see it way up there. Out of the motor, that's 1.5 inches. So I assume they're all 1.5 inches. Well, this output right there, hopefully you guys can see that, that's 1.75 inches output. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look and go ahead and order a reducer. So they actually sell a coupler that will go from 1.75 inches down to 1.5 inches that I can then clamp to that flexible line that I already have. An extra 10 bucks, no big deal. So I will go ahead and get the hard line run, get it routed correctly, and then when that coupler comes in, I'll be able to hook it up and everything will be done in the cooling system. So we won't see that in this video. However, just know that that's what I'll be doing to create a solution. Let's dive in. So I've gotten both the upper and lower radiator hose installed, minus the lower radiator hose adapter. I'll get that done later. You guys don't really need to see that. I don't know if it's that exciting, but I will show you what it looks like at the final install. So you saw, basically just take the bandsaw or whatever, you cut them to length, bend them to shape, and then attach them with the clamps. And then your final product is gonna look something like that right there. So again, this was just bent at a 90, cut to length, and then tightened down on both sides, and it's good to go. So then the bottom, similarly, you can see it's a really tight clearance in there, trying to clear the steering shaft, the brake lines, just all the other junk that's under there. So, but it is fitting, it's routed pretty. Let's see if we can get a better shot there.
it's routed pretty well, as you can kind of see. So hopefully that helps give you guys an idea of what that looks like. If you have more knowledge or experience on how to run radiator hoses more simply, or ways to find more of a universal fit with a traditional rubber hose, I would love to know what you guys have done. Leave comments, all that kind of thing. So now that these are done, let's move on to mounting the transmission cooler. Now let's go ahead and show you what the transmission lines are going to look like and what I'm going to do there. If we can see here, hopefully maybe sort of. These are the two stock transmission lines here, just the hard lines that ran from the front to the back. And so what I've done is actually flared one of the hard lines already, put an AN fitting to it, and then adapted it to the PTFE line. And then that's going to run up and through here all the way to the new transmission cooler. So that's what that'll look like. I would show you what it looks like, but I don't know if it's really necessary. But basically, same way you do a single flare kit, just this is a 37-degree AN fitting flare. So then this will actually fit those AN fittings. And so that's what I'm using for the hard lines, to go from the hard lines to the PTFE lines to the cooler. Originally, I was going to use the cooler in the radiator, but it was a 1/8 NPT. I'm really on the struggle bus. My camera guy's not here, and I'm recording that whole 9 yards. Caleb, sorry, hopefully you can make this look good. I think my camera just died, so I don't remember where I'm at, but basically I'm using the hard lines from the stock transmission, and then those are going to be adapted to AN lines using a single flare 37-degree to fit the AN fitting flare, and then those are going to run to PTFE lines, which run to the cooler. I originally was going to use the cooler that's integrated into the radiator. However, it was a really small, like 1/8 inch fitting on the bottom. It seemed like it was really going to restrict flow in regards to the fluid from the transmission through the cooler and all that. So I tried to enlarge it and re-tap it. In the process, I completely butchered it and destroyed it. So for now, what I'm going to do is run an auxiliary cooler in front of the radiator to hopefully get air to flow through that, keep it cool. I'm going to install a temp gauge for the transmission fluid so I can see how that's doing. And if this doesn't keep it cool enough, what I'll do is order an actual auxiliary cooler, with a fan and wire it up to a switch and do all of that and remote locate the cooler for the transmission to a different spot. But for now, this is what I have, and I know there's gonna be lots of other things I'm gonna have to pay for and change. And so this is just to get me started and see how it works, and then I'll go from there if I need bigger and better. And then here's a close-up shot of what I have currently for the remote cooler for the transmission. So I have one of the lines run. I'll go ahead and I'm in the process of running the other one right now, but I'm trying to do the filming and bouncing between things, and the camera's dying, and I'm just not doing a great job right now. But there you go. That's what the cooler looks like. I'm gonna get this other hose hooked up, and that will be it for this video. Okay, well, hopefully this video was somewhat informational, somewhat helpful. I don't even know what it's really going to turn out like. I've been filming it over a number of days. I've kind of forgotten what I was filming, what wasn't filmed. The camera died at some point, so hopefully this all comes together. But the big picture is I got the radiator installed. I was able to cut down some leftover scrap steel I had around to make brackets to get the radiator attached to the crossmember support, got an overflow installed. All of that's done. Upper radiator hose is done. The lower radiator hose, I did run into that issue where the output from the motor was smaller than the input from the radiator, so I'm getting an adapter for that. That'll be here tomorrow, so that'll be an easy fix for me. That'll be done. The cooler for the transmission has been mounted. The hoses have been run. However, when I was down under there diving at that and looking around, I noticed that the hard line that actually attaches to the transmission, so the output from the transmission, the fitting there is actually broken, and so that hose needs to be replaced. That fitting needs to be replaced. I'm going to be looking at options to just replace it with an AN fitting versus that stock fitting, and hopefully that'll work out really nicely. But overall, other than just fixing that fitting on the transmission, getting the adapter for the engine output lower radiator hose, everything is done for the cooling system. And on the next video, hopefully I'll be a little bit more put together with my filling process, and I'm going to be working on getting all of the engine compartment wiring done, building the battery box, installing the grill, all of those different things, so that then I can get the hood installed and the front engine compartment will be completely finished, and then it will be onto the back of the Jeep to build the gas tank, and then from there, who knows what'll happen. But I hope you enjoyed at least seeing a little bit of getting the cooling system installed on the Jeepster, and until next time, thanks.